Hello everyone! Okay, so back when I first started making sporadic cosplay help content on this channel, I made a series of 5 videos that I thought were sort of a good place for new cosplayers to start. I was a few years into my cosplay journey and I essentially just kept thinking, man, I wish I knew the things that I knew now, or back then I guess, when I had started cosplay. So I essentially made a bunch of videos that would have helped younger me in hopes that it would help some newcomers. Recently, I have been thinking a lot about those 5 videos because I haven't really thought about them since I made them 7 years ago, and I've been really curious to see if they would still theoretically hold up for newcomers searching out this same content nowadays. So I rewatched video 1, how to do cosplay research and preparation for crafting. What a name, just rolls off the tongue. And it went something like this. Hey maniacs, it is very bright out. Your Honor, I object. That's a whole other person. And that's like a circa 2005 YouTube opening. Please send help. I can't hear anything.
It's really weird. But until people start
I had no idea how to audio mix
to do so,
Use Google.
Character, the construction of
This tip so better. Just so better. Get good. The amount of psychic damage I'm taking right now.
No.
Why are my lips so pink in this? Are my lips that pink usually? I don't look like I'm wearing lipstick. Just one big props to Arbor tip. It's just a planet out.
You're someone like
I'm gonna hear.
Has a life outside of cosplay.
Oh yeah, that life that you have outside of cosplay. Going to class. Does this video hold up? No. Okay, it's not the worst video ever. I mean, it's close. It's super outdated. Do not use cosplaytutorial.com. Do not go on forums to try to do your research. Literally just go on your social media platform of choice and utilize the little search bar on that platform. Honestly, does anybody even need to be told that? I feel like a video on how to do research at this point is just redundant, but also tell me in the comments if it's not. But anyway, it's not the worst video ever. But also now, 7 flippin' years later, I can do you one better. So good news, if you are new to cosplay crafting or maybe just self-taught and looking for more ideas on how to make your crafting process better for you, look no further and watch this before you craft. Also, hi, heads up, I am gonna be reading a lot of this directly off of my computer here because it's an absolute ton. I had to write it all down to make sure I just remembered it all. And I don't have a fancy teleprompter the way a lot of YouTubers do, so just thank you for bearing with me staring off into the void over here. Up front, before we really get into this video, when you are doing your crafting research and gathering of materials, you also want to look for corresponding personal protective equipment. Oh my god, am I tricking you into watching a cosplay safety video? Yes I am, because it's super important and I am not f***ing around here. I have seen way too many pro cosplayers not wear, any personal protective equipment over the entire course of their cosplay careers. And so many little baby cosplay hobbyists look up to them and just have no idea how they are needlessly destroying their health because neither party has, any official background in designer construction or OSHA coming in to check up on them. But I have both, so take notes. Personal protective equipment, from here on out known as PPE, is absolutely vital to most creative processes because your health and safety matters. I know I sound stupid. Probably an 8th grade science teacher who's probably phoning it in and 100% ready to let their students die if they catch on fire. But it's true. While the PPE necessary for you will be determined by whatever specific processes you're doing and therefore can vary greatly from person to person, there are some constants that we can talk about now. 1. You need to acquire and wear safety glasses or safety goggles if you want to use any machinery at all. And this includes sewing machines. On what planet does a sewing machine not count as machinery, guys? Wear your safety glasses when using your sewing machine. In the very least, wear your regular glasses. I'm gonna be really honest right now. I often forget to switch between my reading glasses that I use when I'm drafting and cutting patterns and fabric and my safety glasses when I'm actually sewing the fabric together. Because I'll see and feel the glasses on my face and I think I'm already wearing the right ones and I'm totally not. And I apologize for that, the example that I'm putting out there, but try to not be like me. Try to get yourself to wear actual safety glasses when working at any machine. When buying safety glasses, I would highly recommend getting safety glasses with side shields. I kind of don't see the point in getting anything that doesn't protect the sides of your eyes because when working with machinery, things can really fly at you from any angle. Sometimes it's even like physics will just take a break the way that sharp objects will fly at you from seemingly impossible directions. Safety glasses will get scratched and scuffed up over time, and you'll probably need to replace them every so often. And depending on the crafting you're doing, every so often may actually be incredibly frequently. It's hard for me to describe exactly when they need to be replaced because I've worn a lot of safety glasses and I'm very in tune with them and what I need out of them for myself and my productivity on top of safety. So for me, it's just when I start noticing that I kind of gotta look twice at things to really see them. And that's around when I'll get the new ones. But if you haven't worked with a ton of safety glasses and don't know your personal telltale signs of needing new ones, I think I'd recommend just keeping an eye on the scuff marks. Are they just a couple light nicks, or are there dozens? Can you see through them, or are they really starting to build up and cloud the surface? Don't let your safety glasses get so scuffed that your vision is becoming noticeably impaired, because that's when you are overdue for new ones. And actual literal pro tip, if you are pretty consistent with your crafting and need to replace your glasses on a consistent-ish time frame, but are also a forgetful bitch like me, get a giant pack of them and just keep it somewhere in ye old cosplay storage bins, or set up a subscription for them so that they're always there when you need them. Even if you're not a forgetful don't be a lazy and not buy new ones. Don't ever be without them. Cosplay is inherently a visual medium, so if you lose your eyes, you almost certainly lose this hobby. If you don't want that, don't risk it. Just wear your safety glasses. 2. You know all your favorite, definitely legal, actually commissioned even, spray paint artists? And you know how if they've been in the game for more than like a solid 12 seconds, they have respirators that they take everywhere they go? Well, a reminder that I am not f***ing around here. If you do anything that involves particulate or vapors, i.e. anything with like tiny fibers, often created from sanding, or fumes created from things like spray products or heating materials, get yourself a reusable respirator and relevant filters. Not this, and not other medical grade masks. These aren't bad masks, they just aren't really designed to protect you from the byproducts of fabricating the way that reusable respirators are. So not this, no dust masks, generally no disposable single-use masks because none of them are actually full coverage protection. To get full coverage protection, you need a mask that creates a seal in your face, and these do not do that, but reusable ones do. Although I will say, if you literally are just someone who does some light sanding once in a blue moon and can't see any need to invest in a respirator, like this is fine and similar products are fine. And this will also keep you relatively safe from wildfire smoke. What a time to be alive. But if you do a lot of fabrication, even if it's not super intense, even if it's just a lot of sanding, like you're frequently sanding away, get a reusable respirator and be sure to pick out the right filters for your fabrication process to go with it. And I'm just gonna say this before anyone's like, why should I trust you instead of such and such cosplayer who's been inhaling EVA foam dust for the last 20 years and is totally fine right now? Ain't no way they're gonna have serious complications with their lungs later in life. I know a lot about respirators because I have quite a bit of experience working in metals, wood, and essentially some miscellaneous mold making and casting processes. Out of these though, I have the most experience when it comes to wood restoration and keeping myself safe from specifically lead and asbestos, two extremely toxic materials. And while you'll never run into these as a cosplayer, that does mean that I really do know a lot about respirators specifically. I had to get fit tested and get my lungs checked and get my blood checked and etc. So many times when I was working in restoration to see if my respirator was working correctly and I was safe. Because if my respirator wasn't working, even just not quite as good as it had been a month or two ago, I could have... YouTube's not a fan of that word, but like for real, not a good time. Now, I can't address every single fabrication process on the planet that might be relevant to cosplay here, and like exactly what respirator and filter you would need for it. But there are some important things to keep in mind when investing in a respirator. Generally speaking, there are two types of respirators that'll work for most cosplay processes that need one. A half-mask respirator, like the one I use and have right here, don't forget to pair it with some safety glasses, or a full mask respirator, which, to put extremely simply, is often really just a half mask, but with a face shield, like instead of safety glasses. Unless you're really bothered by having like two things to sort of juggle on your face, all you need is a half mask. Like that's really all you need for cosplay, but technically either option will work. If you're watching this video, like this here practical cosplay watch before you craft video, like for beginner and intermediate cosplayers, don't go anywhere near powered and supplied air respirators. They are not for you, and neither are the processes related to them. These respirators come in a lot of different shapes to fit a lot of different faces, and the one that you need may look nothing like mine. So when you look for a respirator, focus on getting one that looks like it's right for your face shape. And if you live in the US, make sure whatever respirator you get is NIOSH certified. To be fair, I really don't know what other countries' health-related certification systems are, but, you know, make sure your respirators aren't just scammy, unsafe bullshit. Wherever you are, like, make sure they meet your country's basic safety standards. Before I jump into fit testing your respirators and making sure that they are the right ones for you, you're also going to need some new filters. Your respirator is not complete without them, and you can't actually even fit the respirator without them because you need the physical weight of them attached to it to fit it properly. The filters you need are gonna depend on what exactly you're doing. For example, if you're just working with particulate, all you really need is a P100 filter. But if you're working with more toxic materials, you may need a specific type of vapor filter. The ideal way to choose a filter is to actually look at material data sheets and warnings and figure out the specific type you need for each material and choose based on that. But I know firsthand that when just starting to learn about filters, that concept can be incredibly confusing and off-putting, and also kind of completely unnecessary for general cosplay crafting, as a lot of cosplay crafting does not need hyper-specific filters. A lot of hobbyists aren't using toxic specialist materials, and all they really need is something for sanding and painting and the occasional accidentally overheated plastic fume. So if you really want to be safe, I would of course recommend doing your research, especially later down the line if you keep crafting and delve into even weirder, more advanced techniques. But if you just want something to start off for now, I would highly recommend that if you're a cosplay crafter, just getting filters like these. These right here are multi-gas and particulate filters, and they're going to cover most of your crafting bases. These will come in a pack of 2, so you will have one for each side of your respirator, and they'll need to be replaced from time to time. Technically, you should replace them after a certain amount of hours used, depending on the filter itself. But a great way to tell if your filter needs to be replaced is just noticing if you can smell things through your respirator even when you know your respirator is fitted correctly. Because if the filters are fine and don't need to be replaced, you won't be able to. The smell test is great and easy to remember, and you should always have backup filters on hand for if you just suddenly notice that you're failing it. To actually fit test your respirator and figure out if it's all working right, pop some filters on that bad boy, like so. Put it on and tighten any elastics to the point where you can create a seal between the respirator and your skin so that no air can get in. If it's fitted right, you should be able to shake around without breaking the seal. You should feel fairly comfortable. Like, yes, there's a thing on your face. I know that's not normal, but you know, fairly comfortable, all things considered. For example, your elastics shouldn't be so tight that they're giving you a headache. And you should also be able to breathe regularly. If something's amiss, take it off and readjust. You may have to fiddle around with it for a minute to get it to feel right, but more than likely, you'll get it to feel good, or it will become apparent that you just got a model that totally sucks for your face shape and you unfortunately need to go back to the hardware store to get a different one. It's rare, but if you have any major problems, like not ones that are resolved with your own finagling or some help with adjustments from a friend, I'm talking like major problems, like you passed out or had a panic attack or something else horrible, you need to take the mask off immediately, hold off on your crafting, and consult a professional. I'd recommend someone who works in occupational health services who does actual respirator fitting. This is gonna kind of suck if you live in the US and are just a hobbyist because we don't have universal health care. And unless you need these services for your occupation, it's just gonna be terrible to schedule and it's not gonna be covered under whatever insurance you have. It's just gonna suck. But major problems are worth consulting a professional. Your health is worth it. If you don't have any major issues though, like you get past all this, you think you fitted it correctly and made the seal I'm talking about, you can do the filter smell test to be sure. All you gotta do is like intentionally create your own smell test. It's how to know if old filters need replacing, like we've gone over, but it's also how to know if initially your respirator is fitted correctly. So put something with a scent in front of you. Usually this means spraying something with a potent scent like a strong air freshener. If your respirator fits and your filters are new and on correctly and working, you should not be able to smell it. In fact, you should be able to take off your respirator and be goddamn baffled by the smell you can suddenly smell, and then be able to put it back on and have it go away. If you can smell whatever scented thing you sprayed with your respirator on, fiddle around with it again, like adjust positioning on your face, tighten elastics, whatever you need to, until you can't. And that's it. You should now be good on the respirator front. I want to say real quick here that if you need to use respirators at all for your crafting projects, you also need to do that in a well-ventilated space. Because while you're wearing the respirator, that's great. You're protecting yourself from anything in the air. But as soon as you're done crafting and take it off, now it's protecting you from the stuff in the air. I'll go more into this when I talk about crafting spaces. Timestamps for this are in the description. But let it be known that I warned you here too. 3. Body coverings. And this is really basic info that you probably already know, and this is also where I put on my 8th grade science teacher flats. But yeah, keep your body safe where you need to. Always wear clothes that aren't too loose or too tight and you aren't afraid of getting a little messy. Wear gloves where applicable and aprons and sleeve shirts as well if necessary. If you're working with machines, don't wear stuff that could get caught in them, and don't let your hair get caught in them either, like pull it back if you need to. The only body covering I use consistently for cosplay is disposable gloves. I just always have a box on hand and replace it when it's running low. I kind of think it's a good idea for all cosplayers to have, but really, you're gonna know your projects and any body coverings you need for them best, so just keep them in mind and use them where applicable. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna talk about is keeping a safe space, which in all seriousness probably should have gone before PPE, but I figured if the retention rate on this video is shit because nobody wants to watch a video about safety, I certainly don't, that hopefully they would at least stick around to learn the importance of safety glasses and possibly respirators. But yeah, you need a safe space to work in before you can even take out your crafting materials and PPE and sit down to craft. Once again, this can mean a lot of different things depending on the craft you're doing specifically, so I'll start with some constants. Generally speaking, you want a clean space. I know the last thing that you want to hear in a YouTube video is some rando telling you to clean your crafting area, but yo, it's really important. It will help with workflow and concentration, reduce the number of mistakes you make, and stop a lot of avoidable accidents before they have the chance to arise. I'd highly recommend to start off by keeping your surfaces clean. This means both your tables and your floors. Especially if you are limited to only working on your floor like I've been there, just bear with it. But yeah, I don't want to hear about a bunch of people who took the stuff on their table and put it on the floor and then immediately tripped over it. Just keep both of them clean. A lot of times it can be very important to also protect your surfaces to ensure that you can keep using them and to help make your cleaning process easier. But to be really fair, a lot of surface protection will boil down to just using some common sense, like having brown paper for a general replaceable table covering, wax paper if you're working with something that you know may spill and seep through brown paper, like glues and resins, cardboard cutting boards when working with scissors right up against the surface of the table. This is especially common when cutting fabric. Self-healing cutting mats when working with things that are very sharp, like X-Acto blades and utility knives, and sometimes a combination of these many things. Of course, when it comes to more specialized processes, you may need a little more than this. I know when I work with Worbla and other thermoplastics, which require the use of a heat gun, I like to have a weighted cutting mat with big cardboard pieces underneath to protect the surface of my wood table from heat and also protect me from burning my house down. I also know quite a few people who are really into working with leather, and they have things like big stone blocks with plastic cutting boards and or rubber mats underneath them to protect the actual surface the stone is on, and also dull the noise that comes with leather tooling. But even still, a lot of this just boils down to common sense preparation. A lot of this is stuff that you will be clever enough to realize is necessary and isn't something that you have to learn about in the way that you might have needed to learn about respirators. So yeah, clean and protect your surfaces by taking common sense preventative measures. It's also important to take these measures with your tools, keeping things clean and stored safely when you're not using them, and making sure of this when you do take them out again for use. It's much safer for you as a crafter to work with things like nice, sharp utility blades rather than dull ones, or a well-cleaned heat gun rather than one that has part of your last project stuck to it. It's also important to make sure that anything electronic isn't overpowering your physical space's wiring. For example, be careful of heat guns or hair dryers that may overheat power strips, as they can be really dangerous and potentially start electrical fires, and be mindful of how much power you're using all at once when crafting. It would suck to trip a breaker during a really important process. Overall, just be mindful and careful of your tools. So much of keeping a safe space is mundane and common sense. However, one of the biggest things I see cosplay crafters trip up on is literally just actually working in a ventilated space if their process needs it. Because like I said earlier, if you're working on a process that needs a respirator, so anything with particulate or vapors, you also need to be working in a well-ventilated space. This is because the respirator cannot save you from what's still in the air after you take the respirator off. But working in a well-ventilated space is a lot easier said than done for probably the vast majority of us. I know a ton about state-of-the-art ventilation systems for the same reason I know a ton about respirators. I know having separators and collectors for particulate on every machine is great. I know a ton about dust collectors and downdraft tables and air scrubbers and big duct systems that make OSHA very pleased, especially when they're cleaned both daily and weekly to different degrees. There is a Brazil joke here, I'm sure of it. But when it comes to our average cosplay crafting spaces, which may not even have a dedicated room, let alone an actual shop space, this is, to be blunt, not really helpful. As someone who knows a lot about this subject, I'm always going to encourage people to literally work outside if they don't have a shop space to work in, or outside adjacent, like an open garage or an open air porch. And if you don't have access to those things, I'll encourage you to look for maker spaces that have actual shop spaces or things like spray rooms. These are all wonderful things that I've been able to take advantage of throughout my many years of cosplay crafting and are worth it if you can access them. There are a lot of processes out there that are really toxic, and I cannot recommend that you just work on them in your apartment. I'll always recommend finding an alternative. However, if you are limited to your apartment, I'm not going to say you can do everything you can do with a well-ventilated space, like with just a few hacks or something, but you do have some options to make your space better and open to a wider range of safer crafts to do moving forward. Option 1, invest in an air purifier with HEPA filters. I have this really tiny one here that honestly is probably shit. I use it to mostly get rid of warbler smell and hairspray smell in rooms that I might be working in, and it's fine. It's tiny and portable, which is good for me and my lack of a dedicated crafting space, but I do not trust it for anything major. For my larger projects, I will always find a better space. But air purifiers in general are a good option to consider. There are significantly better air purifiers on the market, even ones where you can get specific filters that trap specific types of particles, and they are worth looking into. Option 2, a DIY air scrubber. So I know I've just gone off about needing great ventilation and whatever, but the thing is, at the end of the day, ventilation systems eventually boil down to being a fan with a filter. This is really simplified, but essentially that is what it is. You have a fan that sucks dirty air in one way, cleans it with the filter, and shoots cleaner, better air out the other side. This is how it works. This is exactly how it works. This is literally exactly how simple downdraft tables work. There ain't anything else in them. Although they're also usually, to be fair, paired with a better system. But so, if you want a really cheap alternative to an air purifier, you can make a DIY air scrubber with essentially a box fan and a large filter. And honestly, just some duct tape. These DIYs are all over YouTube already, so I'm not going to reinvent the wheel and show you exactly how to make one here. But I will put some links in the description if you're interested in them. Yeah, it's not my favorite recommendation, but to be fair, it does work. It's not a bad option. It will scrub your air and improve your air quality. But regardless of those options, to go with these, or preferably a better ventilation system altogether, I would also always recommend having a vacuum right on hand to vacuum up piles of particulate, if that is applicable to you. Ideally, you'd want one with a HEPA filter. There are some really nice vacuums out there that will do a lot of work for your ventilation system. but those also kind of cost a fortune. So I also want to point out there that a vacuum is better than no vacuum at all. Like, have one on hand. It's just a good idea to stop the particulate from going into the air before it even gets there. I'd also say open any windows if you can, if applicable, like only if they're not going to endanger you. As someone who has experience working with lead and asbestos, I for sure never wanted those particles airborne. Like, there was never a system fan stirring those up, let alone a window. You will never work with those, but you may have some other material that you don't want a window breeze stirring up, or even just like a strong breeze knocking over and making your process unsafe. Generally speaking, new air coming directly into your space is not a bad thing when it comes to creating a better ventilation setup, but be mindful of your specific process when choosing to do so. When you do processes that require any of these things, it's really important to have a solid cleanup routine where you fully dispose of any visible particulate or material safely while you're wearing your respirator. I would also recommend then letting your air purifier or DIY air scrubber run for a good while before taking that respirator off, or even testing the waters to take it off. How long will depend on the project you've been working on, as well as the strength of your machine, but minimum 20 minutes if not like a set cycle. And the smell test, while not perfect and definitely not for every process, is something to always consider. And I hope this is common sense, but I do just want to say here, just in case, do not let your pets near any toxic materials you're crafting with, and do not let them into the room where you've been working with airborne materials until the air has been scrubbed. They should not be breathing air that you are choosing not to breathe. If it's unsafe for you, it is very unsafe for them. Now, I'm sure there are other more advanced options to help ventilate your space, and there are more specific ideas for specific processes. Cosplay gods know you can literally build your own crafting workshop with state-of-the-art machinery and a state-of-the-art ventilation system. But as practical cosplay is aimed at sort of beginner to intermediate level cosplayers who are looking for practical advice as hobbyists, this is what I'm willing to discuss here, and I really hope that this gives folks with limited options some better ones moving forward. Your space should also always include accessible emergency equipment. For most, this is really gonna mean band-aids and ace bandages and like access to a sink and random ointments that treat small wounds. But it's also important to never be too far away from your phone in case you somehow really f**k up and need emergency services. And y'all, please, for real, invest in some fire extinguishing equipment. You should always have at least one actual fire extinguisher at like a central, easy to access location in your household. Mine's in the kitchen because the kitchen is like a few steps away from everywhere in the house. And to be really fair, ideally you want one everywhere it's possibly necessary, although I know that's not always how it goes in reality. But if you are frequently crafting, please get something for the space you work in, preferably like a real fire extinguisher. But even something like this fire blanket is better than nothing. I have this because, once again, I don't have a dedicated crafting area to like hang a fire extinguisher and keep there. Like, I move all over the place. So this just sits in my bin of heat crafting supplies and goes with me wherever me and my heat gun and other heated tools go, just in case. Always be prepared for emergencies. I can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel here, oh my god. And lastly, but certainly not least, because I'm not fucking around here, stretch. I am literally not fucking around here. As much as us creative types hate to admit it, our artwork does not actually pop directly from our heads like Athena from Zeus. We have to channel our art through our flesh prisons, bodies, and physically craft it. And to do so, and to keep being able to do so, we need to take care of our bodies. Stretch before and after you craft, and take care of your body by any means necessary for you before you get started on any crafting project. This will probably mean a lot of different things for different people. Plenty of folks need mobility aids to do the work they do. Compression sleeves and braces are quite common amongst crafters. So are anti-fatigue mats and orthopedic cushions. And plenty others need to make sure that they take their meds if they want to even begin to focus. And I'm just gonna say it because some of us cosplayers definitely need to hear it. That also means going outside and touching grass sometimes. Maybe consider that before you take on another couple 100-hour embroidery project. Mad Dog? Never forget to do what you need to do to keep yourself happy and healthy and safe before you craft. And I know this technically isn't something you do before you craft, but honorable mention, crafting tip here. This also means you need to listen to your body as you craft. Try to be aware of yourself and what is and isn't working for you as you craft, and make adjustments to the way you craft if necessary. I have been dreading this moment, folks, but it's here, so it's tough truth time. At the end of the day, I believe that no matter how passionate you are about crafting, if you can't afford the safety measures needed to craft your costumes, you cannot afford to craft costumes. This may be frustrating to hear because this may mean reworking your budget and making fewer costumes overall, and depending on your needs, there could be some serious, significant changes, but that is how it is. You need to make room to keep yourself safe. However, I also believe that creating a better, safer space and workflow for yourself is something that we're inherently always striving for as crafters. While it would be ideal, I don't think anyone starts with their dream setup that has like all the equipment they want and all the safety features that they require. In actuality, most people will just improve upon their space and process incrementally over time, and in this respect, achieving real safety can be a lifelong journey. If you take only one thing away from this video, let it be to wear safety glasses. Please wear your goddamn safety glasses. Have you like seen all those pictures of people with like the literal like blades stuck in their safety glasses that are like this close from hitting them? Like they saved their life. Like they were this close from everything going away. Anyway, please wear your safety glasses. But in all seriousness, if you have one takeaway from these recommendations, please let it be to commit to the idea of making better, safer choices for yourself and your well-being moving forward. Your ideal crafting situation may not come together all at once. Like, I get it, shit costs money. But having this foundation of safety knowledge and being able to recall it and choose to make better, safer decisions, even if they aren't perfect all the time, can make a world of difference. And you never know. They just might save your life. Folks, this was a monster of a video. And I really doubt anyone has, but if you have made it to the end of this video, please tell me your favorite monster or monster adjacent thing in the comments. It'll be like a cool if you know moment for me. And I'll get to see that you're just an incredible person, and I'll be able to personally wish you many, many safe and just amazing crafting years to come. Thank you all for watching. Actual regular video coming up next. And good luck with all of your crafting projects. You didn't make anything easier.
That's it for now. See you on the con floor.
Good. Yeah, see you on the con floor. I forgot about this ending. I do like this ending. This was a vibe. Okay. That wasn't... Alright. Alright. Well, that was an experience. I hope you didn't find me from that video. If you want to laugh about it, it's unlisted now, but it is still available for you to find. So have fun.